where do I disagree with some version of LGBT plus feminists? I already basically said it. For me, they enter ideology the moment they presume that in itself sexuality is some polymorphously perverse fluid state, you freely choose your identity and so on. And then from outside, due to social domination, this, as it were, free flow is controlled, disciplined by binary patriarchal logic. I think that the trouble is already in human sexuality as such. And I will give you an example. I use it, I'm so sorry, in my last book, which is my favorite. Columnist in The Guardian magazine, Eve Weissman, wrote some 2 years ago an article where she is horrified at something which she considers totally terrifying, our today's decadence and so on. It is, I'm sorry if some of you know the story, she was watching, and I like watching them. I'm not a crazy guy who watches hardcore movies. I think they usually depress me so much that I think if you are an infomaniac or sexual perverse, the way to cure you is to make you watch these movies for hours every day if you don't get totally impotent and frigid. But she noticed something. They are very interesting. Movies about making a hardcore movie where you see the whole scene, you know, the couple or whoever doing it, and then behind the camera. Okay. And in movie, I only rely on this woman's report. I didn't see it, but the way she describes it, it's traditional. On a bed, a guy is, sorry, I want to cut it short, screwing a lady, and in the middle of it, he stops, steps back, and says, my God, I'm sorry, I'm losing erection. Please give me my iPhone so that I go quickly to Pornhub. But you know the crazy paradox of this. What do you want? You have the real woman there. And as if that's not enough, you need Pornhub, you need the image to do it. But that's, I think, the structure of sexuality. You always need a fiction, a fantasy. You know, this is the fundamental gap in sexuality. That's why Freud's point is not whatever we are saying, we are secretly thinking about sex. No, it's what we are thinking when we do make love, when we have sex. And the idea, it can be very strange things. For example, you know Ludwig Wittgenstein, the great philosopher. He was a little bit crazy, so when he was serving the Austrian army, he was regularly, in the First World War, he was regularly masturbating, and he wrote in his diaries, they were discovered recently and published by a friend of mine in Vienna, what his dreams were while he was masturbating. It was not screwing a man or a woman, whatever. It was debating with philosophers abstract questions. You know? And there is a truth in it. You don't have zero-level, healthy, normal sexuality. It's just my body, another's body. No. The structure is it's originally this gap. You have some nonsensical, stupid real, and you are always courting the danger that you appear, that you experience this brutal reality in all its stupidity. Look in a non-sexual way a sexual act. Can you imagine anything more stupid? It's pure stupidity. So you need fantasy support. And that's why now I will do something very nasty, referring a little bit to myself, but maybe some of you. I'm here too reflexive. Often it happened to me, sorry to be so open, but it's not too embarrassing. In the middle of sexual act, when I was still young and doing it, I, as it were, fall out of it, you know, like I observed myself from, what am I doing here, my God, you know? Isn't this just and their fantasy has to enter. And, you know, you need a fantasy, but then fantasy can disintegrate and so on. Fantasy can disintegrate and so on and so on, you know. And again, I think that what I like potentially, all this LGBT stuff and so on, is extremely profound by making clear what a terrible deadlock sexuality is. But it becomes ideology when it falls into the trap of claiming that there is some zero level, even if they would not admit it. Zero level healthy sex, only secondarily disturbed by social oppression and so on and so on. I mean, sex is such a mess. In what sense? You know, there is oppression of certain way of enjoyment. But in sexuality, it always gets turned around so that you all of a sudden start to enjoy oppression itself. That's the basic mechanism of obsessional neurotics. You are ashamed of some of your secret desires, and you adopt or construct rituals to fight them. But then you start to enjoy these very rituals and so on. As now I will mention her in a positive way, as Judith Butler develops in one of her a book of essays, which is much better than her other stuff, I think on something desire and so on, I forgot. No, a later one, where she develops how the basic mechanism of psychoanalysis is that a repression of desire necessarily turns into a desire for repression. You start to enjoy repression itself. And as she admits it here, she is a good Hegelian, there is no way to step back out of this mess and say, oh, now I've reached pure, innocent pleasure and so on. So I think this is the only thing I have problems with some version of this LGBT stuff and so, as if we get rid of patriarchal binary structure, we will enjoy a full, plural, whatever, unconstrained sex. No, we will not. The mess is constitutive. Sorry, I prefer not to go too far.